Bechoros Daf Mem Aleph says the Mishnah that not only the halachas that Ayala said, such as if the face of the animal looks like that of a pig, or most of its tongue is removed, or the other halachas that we learned from Yichidaim, such as the halacha of warts, etc., all those halachas are halacha l'maisa. They're all considered mumim, that you can eat your bechor with that mum. Now we go into a long Mishnah that discusses 11 mumim that are not complete mumim. They don't allow you to eat the bechor. However, they are strong enough that you cannot bring this animal as a carbon on the mizbeach. The first mum is, as we discussed yesterday, watery eyes, and there's a whole process how you see if it's a mum kavua or not. But let's say you realize that it's not a mum kavua, but it's there, it's watery eyes, so you can't shech the animal. But since it's a mum, you can't bring it on the mizbeach. The second mum is gums. We discussed gums, that if there are the back gums that are below the molars, they have to be completely removed to be considered a mum, and these are not completely removed. They have a notch in them, they're missing something, so it's a mum. The second thing is called a garav. Garav is a boil, and the Gemara explains that we're talking about a boil that is moist on the inside and the outside, because if it was hardened, like cheres, that's already the garav that the Torah talks about, and that's a complete mum that you'd be able to eat the animal. If an animal has a yabelis, that's the fourth mum in the Mishnah. A yabelis is a wart, and as we discussed, there's warts that are derisa warts, and that would create a mum gomer, such as a wart with a bone or a wart on the pupil. But we're talking about a wart on the white part of the eye with hair, because without hair is not a mum at all, but with hair it's a mum. The fifth mum in the Mishnah is chazazis, which is also a type of a boil, which is yelefes. The Torah discusses yelefes, which is the shechin of Mitzrayim that it was moist on the outside and hard on the inside, but the Mishnah is talking about moist and moist. And the sixth, seventh, and eighth mumim are zaken, choila, and mizuam. Zaken is an older animal, as the Mishnah describes older animal, a sheep and goat over 2 years old, a cow over 3 years old. Some say it means it shakes. Choila is sick. Some say that means it shakes. And mizua means it has an odor, and each one has a special chiddush. A zaken, I would say, since it can never heal itself from oldness, therefore it's excluded, but the others are not. Choila can be healed, but what's chomer about a choila is that it's not the usual. So I would think that it's more chomer, that's why it's excluded. And mizuham, the one that has a smell, since it's so mos, even though it's strong, I would think that that is also a reason to exclude it, and therefore you need all three. The ninth mum in the Mishnah is riveya v'nirva, meaning an animal that was involved in bestiality, whether to it or it did it to a human, and we're not talking about that there were witnesses, otherwise it would be asur b'hana. Or the 10th one is if it killed a human being, again, there's only one witness, or the owner testified against it, we don't stone it, it's not asur b'hana, but it's asur on the mizbeach. How do we know this? From the miyut min ha-behema, which comes to say not a reveh v'nirva. Ha-bakar means an animal comes to include, this is not in the Mishnah, this is in the Gemara, but it comes to include an animal or exclude an animal that somebody did avodah zarah to, and hatzoin comes to exclude an animal that was designated as avodah zarah. And min hatzoin comes to tell us, the word min comes to exclude that an animal that killed somebody else. A tumtum, that's an animal that its zachrus or nakvos is covered completely. It's a suffix, we don't know what it is. So to bring it to the Beis HaMikdash Adon Mizbeach you can't, because perhaps it's not a bechar, maybe it's in a keva. And to eat it outside you can't, because it might be a zachar and you're eating kachim outside, and memela it's a balmum. Androgynous is a three-way machlokes. According to the Tanakama, androgynous is a suffix just like a tumtum, and therefore you can't eat it outside of the Beis HaMikdash because it might be a zachar, and you can't bring it as a carbon inside the Beis HaMikdash because it might be in a keva, you bring chulin ba'azara. So it's a suffix. Why don't we say that even if it's a zachar, it has a mum that is nakvos, it has a charetz, it has a groove on it, so let's call it a zachar. You could eat it outside of the Beis HaMikdash, and it has a mum. Abai says no, because it says the word charetz and shavar together in the Torah, tell us that just like shavar means a broken leg, so too charetz, the charitz, the groove has to be on a bone. Rava says I don't have to come on to that. The fact is that the Torah says charutz, and the Torah also says garav, which is a boil. Now, every boil, we said, has a hardened part to it, which is in the skin, or at least you could see it from above. It looks like it's in the skin. So therefore, why does the Torah have to say garav at all? It should be included in charetz. It's a groove. The answer is, says Rava, because it's coming to tell us that a groove has to be on a bone and not just a regular groove on the basar. According to Rabbi Shmuel, a adrogenos is a mum gomer, meaning you don't have a greater mum than that. It has, let's call it a zachar, and it has nakvos, which is a tremendous mum to be together with a zachar. And according to the Chachamim, the third sheet in the Mishnah, an androgenos is a bria b'fnei atzma. It's its own thing, and therefore it's not a bechor at all, and you could even shear its wool, and you could work the fields with it, because it's not a zachar, it's a bria b'fnei atzma. Now, the Gemara asks, according to Rabbi Shmuel, he doesn't describe. The Tanakama says it's a suffix. We don't know what an androgenos is. The Chachamim say we know that it's a bria b'fnei atzma. Rabbi Shmuel says it has a mum. But what has a mum? Is it a zachar that has a mum, or it's a suffix and we don't know? What's the difference? The difference is because if we know for a fact that it's a zachar, then you can warn somebody, give him a hasra and say, do not work this animal, and if you do, you'll get malchus. But if it's a suffix, you can't give him malchus, it's a hasra suffix. The other thing is, if we know for a fact that it's a zachar, the kohen can come and say, give it to me. But if we don't know it's a suffix, hamaitzi mechaveiroi olav haraya. So the Gemara wanted to prove from the fact that there's a brayso that says that how do you know to exclude a female and tumtum and androgenos from bringing it as a oila? Because the Torah says the word zachar twice. The Gemara proves that it can't be the first sheet and the third sheet, that has to be Rabbi Shmuel in middle. And then why would the Torah tell us something to exclude a suffix? If an androgenos is a suffix, we don't need a pasuk to tell us that. Obviously, Rabbi Shmuel holds that an androgenos is not a suffix. Says the Gemara, no. Maybe it's going according to Chachamim in the final shita that androgenos is a bria b'fnei atzma, it's its own category. And one time you said that you need two psukim zachar by oila, and how come by Bechor you only need one pasuk? It doesn't make sense that according to Chachamim by Bechor you only need one zachar to exclude a tumtum and androgenos and an akeva. The answer is by Bechor there's also a second pasuk, hazacharim. Have a wonderful day.